The chair now recognizes the gentle lady from Missouri, Ms. Wagner, chairman of our Oversight and Investigation Subcommittee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Over here, Secretary. Welcome, and thank you for appearing before this committee today. I dearly and sorely want to get back to the purpose of this hearing today, which is to talk about Treasury and the state of the international financial system. I'd first want to commend you regarding the Treasury report you recently released focusing on regulatory burdens for financial institutions. And I was honored to be present in the Oval Office with the President of the United States on February 3rd when he signed the executive order directing you to conduct said report. Many of the proposals in the report will go a long way towards alleviating regulatory overburden, especially for community financial institutions, so that lending and economic growth can continue. Another thing that I am particularly concerned about, Mr. Secretary, particularly with my role also on the Capital Markets Subcommittee, is that we now have about half as many public companies in the United States as we did 20 years ago. Additionally, there has been a decline in IPOs, or initial public offerings, during the same time without a corresponding decline in the number of business startups. I understand that Treasury is expecting to issue a capital markets report later this year. Will that report focus on the issue of the declining number of public companies and IPOs?
We're happy that will be one of the issues we'll consider. Thank you.
And why should we care about this trend?
I think, as you've said, we care about creation of businesses. We want to make sure that there's not too much consolidation in certain industries, that there's proper competition, and that there's job creation.
And what are some of the regulatory and other impediments that are chilling the IPO market or negatively affecting company decisions to access capital in the public markets?
Well, I think, as you know, there are a lot of issues, and we will address those in the report and look forward to working with you.
And why is reversing this trend important for both, I think, the broader economy and for individual investors?
Well, I'm more focused on broadening the economy than necessarily individual investors, but it is important for individual investors for their retirement and be able to invest in things. I would say in broadening the economy, again, it all gets back to jobs. We are very focused on how we get to 3% GDP, which we think is critical. The difference between 2% and 3% is trillions of dollars.
And we haven't been there, Mr. Secretary, for a long time.
We haven't, but we have over a long period of time. Thank you.
And how does a healthy public market impact small company growth, and what impacts does it have on job creation?
Limiting capital to industries limits job creation and investment.
I thank you, and I'll yield the remainder of my time to the chairman if he so chooses.
Well, I thank the gentlelady for yielding. Another question, Mr. Secretary. So in the Treasury report, it proposes a regulatory off-ramp, much like the off-ramp that we have in the Choice Act. I think you're familiar with, in the Choice Act, a banking organization that maintains a simple leverage ratio, non-risk weighted of 10%, essentially has a Dodd-Frank off-ramp. So can you talk to us about how this kind of regulatory burden capital trade-off could help spur economic growth?
Well, Mr. Chairman, we do share your view that the off-ramp is one of multiple solutions. It's not the only solution. But again, going back to what we said earlier, our number one objective is to make sure that the top 8 banks don't go from 50 to 70% market share or 100% market share, and that we have a robust banking system with community and regional banks that can grow the economy.
Time of the gentlelady has expired. The chair